Hello friends, today we're going to look at one of the most popular theories about Putin, one I sometimes even see in my own comments, that the man appearing in public is not actually Putin, but his double. So let's take it apart properly. Does Putin really have doubles? How many of them might there be? And is it possible that Putin is no longer alive, while Russia is actually being run by his clones? On the internet, there is even an entire table of these supposed doubles. They have names: Udmurt, Talker, Kushma, Diplomat, Bruise, and others. I went through many close-up photos of these alleged doubles and noticed one important detail. In photos of the real Putin from the year 2000, there is a pigmentation mark near the corner of his left eye. This mark is visible in almost every photo. For example, here is the supposed double diplomat with a flatter chin. Here is the supposed speaker, allegedly used for live broadcasts. The same spot is visible on other versions of Putin as well, on Botox Putin, Bunker Putin, and Boozer Putin. You can take almost any photo of Putin, zoom in on his left eye, and you will see the same dark spot on the lower part of the corner of the eye. So now, let's go through the main arguments one by one. Where did the Udmurt double come from? The nickname comes from Udmurtia, a Russian region whose indigenous people are sometimes stereotyped online as having more Asian-looking features. This theory appeared after Putin likely had a facelift. Here is what usually happens after this type of surgery. Take an ordinary woman with a European appearance. 3 to 5 days after a facelift, the face swells, the eyes become narrower, and the profile looks flatter. The face can temporarily take on a slightly more Asian-looking appearance. Gradually, the swelling goes down, and the face becomes more defined again. Here is another example, also a woman with a European appearance. After surgery, her face swells, her eyes narrow, and her cheeks puff up. Valentina Matvienko, by the way, the Speaker of Russia's so-called upper house of parliament, had a similar operation. For some time, she also looked noticeably different. If you look at these swollen faces from a certain angle, you can almost distinguish Putin from Matvienko only by their teeth and hairstyles. In some photos, Putin's face looks more round. In others, for example, during his New Year's address, it looks more rectangular. But this can also be explained by surgery. When a surgeon tightens the skin of an older person, the lower part of the cheeks and the chin can still sag. The upper part of the face may look tight and firm, while the lower part droops. That is why, after pulling the face upward, the surgeon checks how much more needs to be tightened around the jawline to keep the face visually balanced. This creates a kind of framework along the lower jaw, often with threads that hold the skin and prevent sagging. These threads appear to be visible on Putin. They create the contour of the lower part of his face. So before this framework was added, Putin's face looked more oval and rounded. Afterward, the lower part became more square and more sharply outlined. In some photos, you can clearly see that the upper part of Putin's neck and chin look tight, while the lower part, often hidden by the collar, has the natural wrinkles and folds of a 73-year-old man. You can even see it in motion. The skin is tight and more elastic at the top, but looser and saggy at the bottom. Here's how this contour appears in other people. Another popular argument is the shape of the eyes. In some photos, Putin's eyes look narrower. In others, they seem wider. But this can also be explained quite easily. Just type blepharoplasty into Google, and you will see what this procedure does. Blepharoplasty is a surgery where the surgeon removes excess skin and tightens the area around the eyes. It targets the skin above the upper eyelid, which starts to sag with age, as well as the wrinkles and folds that form under the eyes. As a result, the skin around the eyes becomes tighter, and the shape of the eyes may appear more vertical or more open. In one photo, for example, you can see that one of Putin's eyes does not fully close. This can happen when the skin has been pulled too tightly. Lukashenko appears to have had a similar procedure. He also lost the bags under his eyes. The same applies to the ears. Some people claim that Putin's supposed doubles have different earlobes or different ear angles. But when a person ages, everything ages: the face, the neck, the ears. When a surgeon tightens the face, they cannot simply leave the ears untouched. Otherwise, the face would look younger and firmer, while the ears would still sag like those of an old man. So the surgeon tightens everything: the muscles holding the ear, the wrinkles, and the folds that form between the ear and the skull. This can change the ear's position relative to the skull and slightly alter its angle in order to maintain visual balance. The earlobe can also be tightened, with folds removed, to make it look fuller and younger. In fact, it would look strange if Putin's face looked younger, but his ears looked older and more saggy. In some photos, you can clearly see that the area around the ear is pulled very tightly, something you would not normally see in a person who has not had work done. Another popular argument for the existence of doubles is that Putin supposedly forgot German. People say he was once fluent, but later began making mistakes and now even uses an interpreter.
Großartige Veränderungen in der Welt, in Europa und im Raum der ehemaligen Sowjetunion wären ohne Hauptvoraussetzungen nicht möglich gewesen. Очень хорошо, что российские и немецкие школьники собираются вместе.
Es ist sehr gut, dass russische und deutsche Schülerinnen und Schüler zusammenkommen.
Конечно, мы должны знать и помнить о трагедиях прошлого.
Natürlich müssen wir die Tragödien der Vergangenheit kennen und daran zurückdenken.
Но все-таки мы все должны быть устремлены в будущее.
Nichtsdestotrotz müssen wir alle unseren Blick nach vorne richten.
First of all, Putin returned from Germany in 1990, when he was 38 years old. That means he stopped using German regularly more than 36 years ago. Later, he worked in the Committee for External Relations, where he probably maintained his German for some time. But after 2000, when he became president, his use of German dropped even further. Back then, he visited Germany only 2 or 3 times a year, with occasional phone calls. Today, Putin is over 73. His age and cognitive abilities have likely changed. You can see this in the way he now speaks less freely and relies more on written notes. Over the past 8 years or more, he has almost entirely relied on prepared text. Here is his address to the Federal Assembly.
Темпы изменений должны нарастать с каждым годом, с ощутимых для граждан результатов, реализация которых требует нового качества государственного управления, работы правительства, всех уровней власти.
Or here is another address to judges.
Переоценить роль Конституционного суда, который осуществляет контроль над деятельностью законодателей.
And here is another meeting with Naval Fleet leadership.
Проявляли готовность для совместного противодействия реальным угрозам.
So if Putin struggles to remember and repeat basic Russian text, why are people surprised that he may have forgotten German? Moreover, if there were serious doubts, German intelligence could easily conduct linguistic and phonetic analysis to determine whether it is really Putin speaking or not. He is a public figure who frequently speaks on camera. There is a huge amount of material available for voice comparison and analysis. With that much data, experts could identify whether it is actually Putin or someone else. Now let's set aside Putin's identity for a moment and focus on simple human logic. If Putin were a double, wouldn't the people who interact with him regularly notice? Why wouldn't Lukashenko, who has known Putin personally for more than 20 years, say, "Are you kidding me? Why are you putting some clown in front of me? You want to unite Russia and Belarus into one union state and have it ruled by a puppet?" If Lukashenko had any doubts, he could ask this double a question only the real Putin would know the answer to. Then he could expose him and say, "All right, here is the deal. Sell me oil at half price, buy our dairy and meat products at double the rate, and give us interest-free loans whenever I want, or I reveal this whole puppet show to the world." If Putin had died, why wouldn't the double simply return Crimea? Or at least end the war, lift the pressure on Russia, and save the elites from sanctions? That would reduce international isolation, social tension, military losses, and the risk of collapse. The oligarchs and everyone supposedly controlling this double would benefit from it. The reason this does not happen is probably very simple. Putin is alive, and the country is still trapped inside his personal obsession. Why wouldn't the double sell the Kuril Islands to Japan? What does he need them for? If Putin were dead, why would Rosneft and Gazprom continue sending money to his daughter's foundations? Why do Sechin and Miller, two of Putin's old St. Petersburg associates, still hold their positions? They manage some of the largest and most profitable financial flows in the country. Why would anyone leave those positions in the hands of people loyal to someone who had supposedly been dead for years? And why would a double wear high-heeled shoes? Only Putin has insecurities about his height. What difference would it make to a double whether he is taller or shorter? He already knows he is a double. In conclusion, I still have not seen a single piece of convincing evidence that Putin is dead and that doubles are running the country. All the physiological differences can be explained by plastic surgery, and I have no doubt that Putin undergoes these procedures. In every photo I have seen, Putin's left eye has the same dark spot on the lower part of the corner. People who know Putin personally and interact with him regularly would behave very differently if they were dealing with a double. Putin's own behavior also suggests that this is indeed Putin. His desire to be at the center of events, appear in public, attend official meetings, and meet foreign leaders does not look like the behavior of a double. A double would most likely avoid photographs, avoid being filmed, and appear in public as little as possible to reduce the risk of exposure. That said, I might be wrong. Maybe I have missed something. Maybe there are facts I do not know about. Feel free to share your opinion in the comments, and do not hesitate to express your honest views on Putin and his supposed doubles. Friends, thank you for being here and for continuing to support me. If you like what I do and want to support the channel, you're welcome to join my Patreon, where for just $3 a month you get access to new videos 24 hours before they go public, posts, polls, and also exclusive videos. For example, this shocking story about Russia's Black Widows, women who marry soldiers and wait for death payouts. A dark episode about how many lives Putin has destroyed in 4 years of war. Only facts, no propaganda. And a third on how the Kremlin gnome sold Russia to China for next to nothing. I also want to say a huge thank you to everyone who supports me through Buy Me a Coffee. It's thanks to my supporters that I can keep doing this work and keep moving toward my goal, saving up for my education in Europe. If you want to support me in this, I've created a page where I explain in detail how much money I need, what it will be used for, and what you'll receive in return for your help. The link is in the description. Right now, I have 97 incredible patrons. Please, let's hit 100. Not saying goodbye. See you very soon.